Can you guys hear me, or does it not start until noon exactly? Cool. All right. I wasn't sure if that would work. Last time I tried this, it went away as if it was magically going to come back at whatever time I'd set before, like 2:30, and then it didn't. So that's why we had some snafus. I think I've got the video quality greatly improved as far as blockiness and graininess and lagging. I found some magic settings. Hopefully that's the case. I still cannot use the built-in mic in the phone while using the phone as a HDMI camera. So I'm using the MacBook mic, which is 4 feet away from me. So I don't know if it's going to sound great. I'm doing this at noon on a Thursday to kind of test the video quality and some stuff I want to talk about. But I also am going to do a more full Q&A video coming up. And probably do that in the evening when more people are off work and can participate. And for that, I'll set up a real mic, and then I can control the audio quality more. I might even personally appear in that video. Let's see. Let me say hey to everyone. Hey to everyone. I have to get closer to the screen to read all the chat comments. So you may hear this office chair making sounds in the background, as you've probably heard in other videos. It's a Herman Miller Aeron chair I got from an office that was going out of business during one of the various .com busts. And it's very comfortable, but it makes noise if I sit down or move. Hello, everyone. Well, we got a lot of people here, 36 already. That's awesome. So I'm going to start on what I wanted to discuss first, and then we're going to take a look at this Macintosh 240, which would be awesome to go through. Last Saturday, I did a review of the True Tone One Spot Pro CS12. And I did not like the trends that the comments on that video were going, because I thought it was coming across as unfair to the product. And I wanted to talk about reviews in general and how I am learning or trying to learn to be a better reviewer as far as conveying information. Now, I go back and I look at all my reviews that I've already done, and I stand behind everything that I've said. But I have realized that because I do this for a living and I know all the concepts, that I know the weight to give a certain thing, and the viewers don't always know what weight to give any minor or major flaw or criticism. For an example, with this One Spot Pro, the client has a whole bunch of digital pedals, and I had tested all the pedals with various power supplies, from the little wall wart switching supply that Strymon provides, to Pedal Power 2, Pedal Power 2 Pluses, the Strymon Zuma, and this One Spot Pro CS12. And I found and reported that with the CS12, the noise floor of one of the MXR pedals, the MXR Reverb, was almost non-existent with this, but was still very, very apparent with the other supplies. And that the Strymon Flint had less apparent digital noise with the one spot than with the other supplies. So from my perspective, that was a very positive review. In the course of looking at how this was built before I tried it, because one of my jobs for my clients is to make sure things are built well, and I also wanted to know what was happening under the hood, I found that one connection on the IEC connector was not very reliable. It had some loose strands. And normally, if you are a customer of one spot, if you're an average buyer, if you have a problem with it, you reach out to the company, they would probably swap it out, fix it for you, all under warranty. No big deal. From my perspective, that's the kind of little stuff that happens when you have things made in large quantities. It was a minor issue. It was easily fixed. True Tone would have fixed it for me, except that I do this for a living, so I just fixed it. The difficult thing, the real trick of this, is to do 12 outputs that are isolated with high current and everything's designed well. And on that level, everything in here was great. And I did not give the balance the proper, I didn't give it the proper balance in the video, because so much of the video was me opening it up, discovering the problem, and then showing how I fixed the problem. And then I showed that, hey, it works really well. And in my thought process at the time, well, this is like the 6th video I've done on digital pedals. People don't really care about digital pedals on this channel. So, hey, it works. It's great. Life is good. But then the comments were like, man, that thing's built crap. For $200, I expect better. It's not built like crap. The stuff in there that's very tricky to get right, they got right. They had one very minor issue. It was a Saturday. Normally, I would have reached out to True Tone as soon as I found it to let them know, hey, check your units. This could be happening in production. I did get in touch with them. If it had been on a Monday or a Tuesday, I would have called them before I posted the video. From my perspective, that was a very small thing, easily fixed. And from in the timeline of the video, I did not give them the opportunity to address that, which they would have. So people were taking away a flaw and not getting the impact of the positive thing. And what's the best way to put this? I have not a jaded perspective on gear, but a very real world perspective on gear, because I have so much stuff coming in from various price points and various decades, and I see the best of the best, and I see some of the worst of the worst. And even the best of the best often has little issues, and I fix them. That's what I do for clients. I make things which are almost great, or make things which are good, much better, or I let them know when something's a waste of their time and money and they can move on. So I'm trying to learn how to convey without using 5-star ratings and all that nonsense, which don't really tell you anything. 5 stars compared to what? The weight of a problem. For instance, a year ago, I did a review of a, I'll look at the comments in just a moment. I promise you guys. I did a review of a magnetone, Super 15, Custom 15, something, 15 watt magnetone. And in my review, from my perspective, pretty much everything in the amp was built really well, given the price point. It was PCB construction, 16 millimeter alpha pots, nothing earth-shakingly high quality, but nothing that was low quality. It was a good amp. That particular amp had one particularly bad solder joint on a ground connection. I fixed it. In that review, I said, hey, this individual amp has this issue. I don't know how many will. I don't expect that many will. The amp, other than that, is pretty damn good. So that, to me, is comparable to the problem I had with the one spot. Good, really good product. That particular example had one minor flaw, easily fixed. To a tech, that's nothing. Other things I have reviewed negatively, and I'll skip some of the stuff off the Facebook pages that a lot of you guys have never seen. The Morgans. I've done quite a few Morgans, and consistently I have found that they have Filter caps not rated for the voltage present. That's a big deal. That's a big deal. I've tried to point out that that is a big deal. It is an easily avoided big deal, but they don't seem to want to fix that. So I would give that like a C rating. This would be an A minus. The magnetone would be an A minus for the price point and what you're trying to do with it. That Morgan would be a C, maybe a C minus. People have said that I have slammed Dr. Z amps. No, Dr. Z amps, I've pointed out that they're overbuilt, which makes any repair more expensive than necessary. That they don't use locking washers on their pots, jacks, and switches, which can come loose. And on some of their models with reverb, I don't think the reverb is well implemented. And the heads with reverb tanks tend to hum a lot because the tank is too close to the transformers. So I would say most Dr. Z amps are a B amp, which can be made into an A amp if you make sure that everything is really tight. And the reverb models, B minus to C, depending on whether the tanks are too close to the transformers. So I'm trying to learn how to give things different weight, like the SVD Heritage amp I did, the big bass amp, the big flagship with the new Yamaha management. Everything about that amp was really, really good and sounded great and sounded better than most SVTs for the past 40 years have sounded. But it had a pretty glaring flaw. And I've heard from other techs and users that not all of the amps coming off the line have this problem. But on this one, the AC mains were routed right by the preamp supply, the preamp circuitry, so they could put a standby switch there. And the way their standby switch works is it actually works like the power switch in terms of shunting the primary power to and from a transformer. And that was causing a big buzz and hum. And I tried physically moving those wires. I tried applying shielding in that area. Nothing really addressed it. And I pointed out like, hey, this is a fantastic sounding amp. It's very well built. This is a pretty big flaw. So if you're going to buy a $3,000 SVT or whatever they cost, they're expensive. Make sure that it does not have this problem. This is what specifically to look for. So I thought that was balanced, but it's hard if you're, I'm not saying just a musician, but if you're not technically educated, if you don't have a ton of experience with this, it's hard to know how serious something is. And I'm going to have a sip of my drink and look at some of the comments, see if there's any questions there. And then I'm going to get back to the notion of reviews for some other stuff I've been meaning to talk about for a while. Shielding has to be grounded on both ends for low frequency. No, not at all. Most shields should be telescoped so that it is shielding but not providing a ground path. It gets complicated. I'm sorry, the comments are very small and all over the place. I don't have any experience with the Marshall DSL C20. I've only had the 40s in. I've not really been impressed with any modern Laneys that come in. The DSL 40CR is a pretty good amp for its price point. It was one of the winners of my Amps Under $1,000 video. What would be a good purchase for a 5-watt amp? Oh, depends on what you want it to do. I'm not some old guy who's like locked into only what Leo did is good. That said, a Vibrochamp is a really nice sounding amp, and you can always use pedals for reverb and delay and overdrive into that. But there are a lot of 5-watt amps on the market that have all kinds of features. I have not played many of them. The Marshall Class 5 I thought was just riddled with serious flaws. Um, I don't get a lot of 5-watt amps in, honestly, because I charge X amount an hour, and I have a 2-hour minimum for most things. Though I'll waive that if I feel it's justified. But so when an amp costs $200, people aren't going to spend $150 to fix it. So I don't get a lot of the lowest tier stuff in, and that by necessity includes a lot of the 2-watt and 5-watt amps that are out there today. And as a player, I have no interest in them. I would not get, unless I was looking for something very specific, like a Gibson BR4 or a Vibrochamp. I wouldn't waste my money on anything that low wattage. I'd want Princeton, 12 watts at the minimum. 15 to 20 watts, I think, is the sweet spot. You can keep it low enough for very small gigs or home use, but it's just loud enough to hang with the drummer in most places. And if you have enough money that you can say, I'm gonna have one amp for this stage, one amp for this stage, I'm gonna have a little 5-watt for home, whatever, that's great. There's a lot of stuff out there, but most of us don't have an amp collection. We have an amp or a few different amps for different styles and sounds, but most people would be better off with a deluxe reverb than a 5-watt amp. Speakers for Blues Junior, ET65 or Cannabis Rex. I am not a fan of the Cannabis Rex. It's a fine speaker as far as quality. I find it very dark and boxy sounding. For Blues Junior, you want something with a little bit more of a scoop in the mids, because the cabinet, the physical format of the cabinet promotes boxiness, and that mids circuit they have in there in stock form is very boxy. So I would say the G12C from WGS or a Veteran 30 or Vintage 30 would be my choices for that over the ET65 there. Atomic Space Tone. I gave Swart the Space Tone a very good review about 2 months ago. I think it's a really nice amp, but it's a lot of money to spend for a 5-watt amp. I think the 20-watt version would be worth getting, but that 5 watts was very loud into the Celestion Blue speaker, which is very efficient. So there are borderline exceptions to what I'm saying, but most 5-watt amps out there cost very little and don't compare in any way to the Swart. Do I find tech apprentices? I don't find tech apprentices. I'm not interested in that. I would spend all my time looking over their shoulder, making sure they weren't messing up. Since you are Macintosh. Oh, I would not go tube for stereo amps these days, for hi-fi amps these days. This is massive overkill, and at the end of the day, it's fairly low wattage. It's a beautiful sound, but and for those who want it, I'll restore them. But I would not get into the world of building them because it's adding all this coloration that a lot of guys do not want for hi-fi. Hi-fi is not my world. Do I repair home power amps? No. I mean, I could, but most of them aren't worth repairing. It's usually cheaper to buy something newer. Any love for B52? Oh, no. B52, I mean, the band, yes. The amp, no. The amps are garbage. The last one that came in, the entire PCB was charred by one of the output tube sockets. And the guy asked if I could repair it. And I said, yeah, I absolutely can repair it. It'll cost as much as the amp costs you to buy. And when I'm done, I have no guarantee that one of the other three won't do the same thing. I'm sorry this happened. You lost whatever money you spent on this. Go buy something worth having. I have to be honest with people. I could have fixed it. I could have charged the guy $300, which is what it would have taken to make that thing playable again. These companies just take advantage of people And I don't respect that, and I don't admire that. I don't like that, and I'll call it out whenever I get the opportunity to. Please do a video on amps for 1500 in the future. Yeah, I'm planning on it. It's those videos take a lot of time, a lot of time to put together well, and I try very hard to be fair in the presentation and to give actual information. But amps under 500, amps under 1,000, that's a little bit easier because there aren't that many good ones out there. Once you get over 1,500, 2,000, you get into the realm of some really good amps, but they tend to be very specialized. So, I could say 1976 Fender Deluxe Reverb that you get for $1,500, and you plan on over the next couple of years spending $300 to get it all restored and perfect. That's a fantastic amp for a lot of players, but if you play metal, it won't do a damn thing for you. If you need more wattage, it won't do anything for you. If you need it to work with your effects rig with stuff in the loop, it won't do a thing for you. Same thing, if I were to recommend a Friedman, say the Jerry Cantrell Jr. Well, that's a great amp for a lot of rock and hard rock guys, but it's not going to be great if you really need a 50-watt amp. It's not going to be great at all if you play country or jazz. So I'm thinking I'm going to do subcategories in the coming videos. Like, I don't know whether to call it traditional amps under 2,000, modern amps under, channel switching amps, non-channel switching amps. I need to look into the best subcategories to break it up into, because if I'm comparing an AC30 to a Deluxe Reverb to a JTM 45, those are all very more apples to apples. If I'm comparing a Sir PT100 to a 1963 Ampeg Echo, reverber rocket, whatever. Those are entirely different things, and people who want one won't have any interest in the other. So I'm just trying to make it easier for me, and it means that some people will be disappointed because the amps they're looking for, I may not even get to for another 6 months. And, I can only do what I do. Let's see. I have to get real close to the screen. I have not had any of the newer DSL 100Hs. The older DSL and TSL 100s were garbage. I don't have any opinion on custom amps other than Danny Partridge looked boss with one. Yeah, YBA 1s are awesome. That's a really good price. Haven't had a Category 5. I'd like to. They seem really well built, but I've not seen one. I don't work on hi-fi and vintage ham radios and stuff. I work on Macintosh and a few hi-fi things, more because it's a tube amp. I worked on one. Was it a Techniques? Some receiver from the early 70s, and it was just a nightmare and cost a ton. And at some point, you feel like you're just changing tires. There's no joy there. Chubsters, not Chubsters, Riveras. Riveras can be very good amps. I'm not always a fan of some of the sounds he intended, but they delivered the sounds intended. Specifically talking about the amps with the Rivera name, not the Rivera era Fenders, where I think he was stymied by committees. All right, I'm gonna get back. Some of the stuff, the questions are coming too fast and would require too long an answer per. So I'm beginning to see why people do those top commenters where you have to pay money, but I'm not gonna do that nonsense. But I want to talk about the next thing I wanted to talk about, because it's my day and I can do that. And I'll eventually get to a lot of questions again, but I can't answer every question right now. back to the subject of gear reviews. We are in a really weird space with YouTube and stuff, in that the YouTube review community has become a cottage industry. I'm sure I'm not the only one who's noticed that, say, Fender will come out with a new model of bad acoustic electric guitar, or PRS will come out with a new pedal or whatever, and like the same 12 channels all magically have reviews of that brand new product on the same day or within a day or two of each other. Some of them, I'll say, like Paul Davids. Paul Davids obviously is getting these stuff sent to him for reviews, and I'm sure he's being paid to review them. From having watched his videos, I think he is still giving very balanced reviews. He will still say when something doesn't work for him or when something seems bad or problematic. But again, I know enough about the gear and stuff that I can read between the lines and hear when Paul's saying, "This sucks, but I'm trying to be nice, and they are paying me after all." A lot of guys out there just have praise for whatever they're paid to praise, and it's really hard for a guitarist to know who to listen to or take seriously. And I feel comfortable saying nice things about Paul Davids. I'm not going to directly call out any of the people I think are not doing it well. But the whole concept of paid product promotion or paid reviews leaves a bad taste in my mouth, and I don't want to go down that hole. So far to date, the only promotional material that I have been given, I have a Manliest Guitars Manliest Pickups t-shirt. Actually, coincidentally, I'm wearing it right now, and it appears in the background of some of the videos I do. I had bought a pair of his pickups. I paid full price. I gave them a good review. I used them for quite a long time in one of my guitars. He liked the review. He sent me a t-shirt. I got the compensatory t-shirt after I'd already stated my opinion. B, you cannot buy my opinion for a $10 t-shirt. Honestly, I like his products, and doing soldering all day, I go through a lot of black t-shirts. They all end up getting little holes burnt in them for some reason. And a couple weeks back, I did a review of the Keeley Halo delay pedal that my client had bought for his pedal board project. And I was very impressed with it. And I did a mini review video on that Halo showing how I programmed it for the owner's needs, and how, because it had 6 presets and was very easy to tweak, it was replacing the timeline that he'd been using for a long time and giving better results faster and easier for this player's needs. Nothing against the timeline, but you really have to dive in and be in programming mode to get the most from that. And I thought the Keeley Halo gave most of the same benefits with great sound in a simpler, smaller form factor. Great choice for the client. And I showed the sounds I was able to get. And I gave my review, and it was one that my client had bought. Robert Keeley reached out. He saw the review. He really liked it. And he sent me one, which was great. I was very gratified. I think highly of Robert Keeley. I have for a long time. I enjoy using the Halo. But that's a little slippier slope. But I reviewed the product before I had one for free. And that's the only real benefit I have taken out of being in the industry to whatever degree I'm at. So, I'm very cautious about that. Most of the stuff I review is stuff that comes in for repair or that I have bought. And if I ever get something for free and then review it, I will disclose that to you. I will never be paid to review something. Which brings me to my next big concept. Why should anyone listen to my opinions on anything? And that's something that I've seen in comments on various videos. And I think what happens is someone's, just going down the YouTube rabbit hole and they'll see one of my videos on, say, the Marshall, uh, what was the bad one? The Origin 20. The Origin 20, where I say, it doesn't sound like a Marshall. It can't sound like a Marshall. The circuit is wrong. Where they're doing the gain, where they're doing the EQ, it may have some plexi cosmetics. This is not a plexi sound. Some of you will have seen it. And if that's the first video that someone's seen of mine, and I'm contradicting what they've read in all the forums, or they have bought said device, and once you buy something, you desperately want to like it. Many people just instantly love whatever they've bought, no matter how few other things that they've heard or used. So they attack my opinion. I mean, you need to play real Marshalls sometime. I can't drop a CV at the beginning of every video I do. I do this from the perspective that I've got like 900 videos up already. I've been doing this for 30 years. Those of you who see my videos, who are aware of what I do, know that, hey, if he says it doesn't sound like a plexi, it's because I've seen him restore a 68. I've seen him restore a 72. I've seen him restore two 76s. A lot of those are metal panels. I've seen him work on a Germino JTM45. There aren't a lot of actual plexi era Marshalls in Memphis. By the time Marshall was really importing into the United States more efficiently, that was when you get to the metal panels after 70. But I know the circuit like the back of my hand. And if you bring me a black flag, I don't get to look up the schematic. I know the difference between a black flag and a 68 super lead and a 69 super lead and the 72, blah, 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 blah. So if you've watched my channel for a long time, you know that I know these things. But I get people who come in and they just discover one video. Like I got a lot of negative comments on that Vox AC10 custom, the C1 video. People tell me I need to go play more Voxes because I don't know what a Vox should sound like. If you Google my name and Vox, shut up, guys. I got this. I'm pretty well known for Voxes, and I've probably played more JMIs than most techs in North America. Don Butler has got a head start on me, but I know the Voxes, I know the historic ones, I know all the various reissues and versions, and I know why it is strange to me that people just ignored all the absolutely objectively true technical statements I made in the AC10 custom video about how they're powering the op-amp circuitry with only 5 volts, so there's no headroom, so the signal doesn't have enough swing, and the signal gets crunched, and so the amp has no headroom, and when the breakup happens, it's ugly because of this little 5 volt op-amp supply, whereas in the AC15 and AC30 custom, it's a bipolar plus minus 60 volt supply. That's a big difference headroom, 60 volts to 5 volts. And it just means that Vox never intended the AC10 to be a series amp. It sounds pretty good for cleans. It's a little bit brittle. It's a practice amp or a first amp, and people don't like to hear that. But they don't like what I say, so they dismiss everything, even the stuff that they don't understand. And I don't want to begin every video with, hey, I've been doing this for 30 years. And here's a list of everything I've done, blah, 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 blah. And here's why I'm right and you're wrong. So I'm just going to continue to do these things as if you have seen quite a few of my videos, because I can't go down the laying out on the table and measuring it routine in every video. But it's discouraging when you point out that, oh, because of the way the spark plugs were put by the gas line, this engine will catch on fire 5 times out of 10, and people will just be like, man, whatever, man, it's red. To use an analogy, it's frustrating doing all this. So I'll continue to do non-paid, objective, grounded in reality reviews, and I will ruffle some feathers, and I'll get dismissed as an idiot by those who like to dismiss such things. And such is life. That's just how it rolls sometimes. And we just put on our big boy pants and get on with it. Let's see what's been happening in the comments while I've been yakking. What causes a solid state amp to suddenly drop volume? A whole lot of stuff can happen there. And I don't have a crystal ball. You have to take it to a tech. Some of it's minor, some of it could be a sign of something major. Stuck at home with COVID. Oh, well, I hope you're doing well, man. Matt Johnson. Man, that sucks. I hope you've got what people are considering mild COVID these days. Weird when you build AC-15 clones. What's weird? I don't build AC-15 clones. If you're talking about the Excalibur 15, that's a very reductionist view of it. It's not an AC-15 clone. When can I do a video review on my broccolini? Well, I don't know if any of it lasts long enough. I tend to eat it pretty fast. Second time I've been asked to do more cooking videos. Western Electric is supposedly building a factory to make tubes, I think in Florida. As to whether any of us mere mortals will be able to afford them, time will tell. I don't know about the Gentrys. The box tops and Big Star are rocking a lot of fenders. Regarding the one spot, don't you think the AC wires are considered a major flaw? No, it's a minor flaw. Just one end needed to be resoldered. And as to me damaging the pad when I tried to replace that wire, 9 times out of 10, that would not have happened. And I only did it because I thought the blue wires just had a little too much tension on it. But that's me making a mistake, which I was honest about. For most owners, they would send it back to True Tone, and they would get taken care of behind the scenes. I would have to buy 1,000 one-spot pros, open them all up, and find how many had flaws with the AC wiring to say this is a problem. To me, it seemed like a minor thing had happened. You fix it, you move on. I've not worked on any rev amps. I've not seen any. I am curious. I like Sean Tubbs quite a bit. Did some work for him a long time ago. Real good guy, real good player. You should, if you're sitting in a room with Sean Tubbs and he's got his gypsy jazz guitar, he's playing with his big tortoiseshell pick. It's just insane. He should be totally famous for that, and people will be like, "Oh, he also plays a little country around here and there." But I've not tried any rev amps or seen any in real life, let alone had any come in on the bench. What's my opinion on Marshall in a box style pedals? It's limited. The only one that I've tried, to my knowledge, is the SL Drive, which I thought was kind of fuzzy and not my idea of a Marshall. I have a Marshall Drive Master pedal here that I am fixing for a friend, and I need a new foot switch for it, but I've got it wired so it's always on. And this sounds to me better than the SL Drive did. It's much larger, but this thing is not perfect. It's a bit weird on the high end. I've not tried any other amp in a box pedals yet. I want to try maybe the Friedman small box, and I want to try the what's that one called? The Ethos TWE, the Trainwreck Express one. But I haven't made a search for them or anything. So it'll happen when it happens. It's just something I'll eventually add to my pedal board just to have around. Thanks, BB Made. Is it possible to design an SE amp as Humphrey as a push-pull? Yeah, it's just really difficult. You can add additional filter nodes with some small resistors, small value, high wattage. Swart in their Space Tone did a really good job of that. And I can make a vibro champ quiet too. But it is tricky because you don't have any common mode cancellation in the output tubes. So it can be done, but it's not something that's often done. Would my MC240 make a better guitar amp than hi-fi? Depends on what you want your guitar to sound like. I think Les Paul would have liked it a lot better than a Gibson Les Paul amp, but I don't think that most guitarists today would find it very enjoyable because it would just be the wrong input impedance made louder. Oh yeah, Chris Bell and Chilton, fantastic musicians, and I love how inventive the guitar parts are. I'm a big Star fan, and you guys have seen the T-shirt. Alex wasn't easy to get along with in person, but he was fantastic on record. Do I watch Gray Bench Electronics channel? I don't watch a lot of other amp techs on YouTube. I don't have time. I don't have interest, honestly. It's like getting home from work and watching people do your job. And so on one level, it can be very boring. Like, oh my God, I'm just never get to think about anything else. On the other hand, it can be very frustrating to watch people make what I would consider to be terrible mistakes. I have a lot of friends, some very good friends now, who are techs all over the world. And I watched some of their videos, and I have found some guys I really like. I have found a lot of tech channels. I'll check out a video or two, and I don't think very highly of them. And I have a policy of not mentioning the bad ones. Brad Webb is the good Brad. I'll just say that. Hint, hint. I enjoy his videos, but I don't watch every one. I think Colleen Fazio is doing some real good work. I think Jason Tong's got it going on. But I don't watch all the amp tech videos out there because I have too many amps to work on. And if I'm watching YouTube videos, if it's with my wife, apparently we're watching funny animals. And if it's by myself, I'm watching history documentaries. Don't ever ask me questions about the 100 Years' War unless you want to sit back and make a pot of tea. Beginner's Guide to Using Tube Amps. No, I don't have the temperament for teaching. Old trainers, torpedo captors for DI, red plating, the power tubes. Oh, that could be a whole bunch of stuff. But if you've seen that happen, don't do that. Doc, it hurts when I do this. I don't know anything about the torpedo captor. I don't know whether it's a good or bad product, but it sounds like you might be causing some oscillations. And trainers are well built, but they can't do everything. Yeah, trainer used linear pots a lot of places, which get real painful real fast. Don't have any experience with the Marshall 1-watt 50th anniversary. Uncle Doug's good. I don't agree with him 100%, but say 95% I do. I think he does an admirable thing in that he will take the time to try to show people the whys and hows of how these things actually work. I don't have the time or temperament to do that. And doing those videos where he has white charts and graphs and schematics and goes through everything, that's very time consuming. And I appreciate him doing that. And I'm sorry to hear about his dog. $5881s in a 34 Marshall. It's safe. You just got to make the bias adjustments. Other than that, you don't even have to change the screen grids if you're going 5881s. Just make sure that the bias range is set correctly. Yeah, Dan Lurie. We're on a Facebook Amp Tech group together. I like Dan. He does really good work. Would I ever do an amp building glass in person? No, not at all. I don't have the temperament for it. My friend Bruce Segnator runs an amp building class up in Michigan, in the Detroit area. That'd be a real good place to do that. He has a kit where you walk out of there with a 20-watt Marshall, essentially with various switching options, and it's a good design. And so for your money, you learn how to build it, and you get to take the amp home with you. Which of the output transformer clones for an AC30 would be best suited for 30H 50th anniversary? AC30 output transformers, you can use the Woden, you can use the Haddon, you can use the Albion. They sound slightly different. The Haddon's much easier to install than the Woden clone. Then you have a choice of lay down or stand up. And unless I had that particular AC30 on the bench, I don't know which one they used. You know, I almost said call Patrick and ask. Damn, I miss him. He was such a great guy. First amp I ever built for myself from the ground up. It was called, from the ground up, the first one was called the Aslan, as in Good Morning Aslan, that great Los Lobos record. And it was brown and blackface Fenders on one channel, and Bassman through Plexi on the other channel. And I made a lot of mistakes along the way and corrected them all. And there are a lot of things in those amps I would do differently today, but they're still out there being used, and they sound really good. But I look at some things I did and I just kick myself. But you know, that's how you learn. I don't actually own any amps myself right now. I sold my last amp about 5 years ago because I have all these amps here. If I want to play guitar through an amp, I have, you know, God, 12-year-old me would kill me. You know, do I want to go play through that 5150? Do I want to go play through that 64 Twin? Do I want to go play through that AC30 over there? Do I want to go play through that Matchel Spitfire behind me? You know, so I wouldn't have the time to play one right now for myself. And where would I keep it? Because real estate's a premium. I'm going to build myself an Excalibur 15, probably a combo version, just to have. And I'll probably end up loaning it to someone, and then they'll buy it, and I'll have to build another one. That's how it works. Did we lose him? As far as I know, I'm still here. Los Lobos does rule. Los Lobos rules entirely. They are fantastic. But yeah, that was called the Aztlan because I loved that album, Good Morning Aztlan, and I love the sounds on it. I wanted to see if one amp could get all those sounds. And I'm pretty sure that if David Hidalgo was playing through that amp, it would. Have you ever opened up a BE100? Yeah, I've opened up a BE100. One came in, and one solder connection at one of the switches had broken, probably hit the magic pothole. And I think it had a microphonic tube. No big deal. Very well built amp. I played it, and I channeled my inner 14-year-old stuff, made sure it worked, and sent it back home. It's not the amp for me, but it is a well-built example of that kind of amp. I think we're going to take a look inside this Macintosh real quick, and then I'm going to end the live stream because I have some Macintosh repair to do. If I can figure out how this cage attaches. The mic's in my way. Not the mic, the camera stand. What's going on in there? Oh, there it goes. All right. Just a little rubber grommet thing. I thought it was, but you always have to make sure before I use brute force. So none of the tubes have lost vacuum. It's very dirty. That's pretty common. Well, I think this is going to be beyond the scope of just having a camera in one place to see. So I think this is going to get its own video. I think I'm going to stop the live stream here. How's the audio and video quality been throughout? As I've not been doing a lot of moving stuff That was what was causing all the pixelation last time whenever there was a change. How's that been? Has it been okay to look at and hear? Great. So good to hear. All right, I'm going to stop this, grab some lunch, and then do a separate, video the way I normally do on this Macintosh 240. But I wanted to do this test for audio and video so that I can get the system worked out. I think in the coming days, I'm probably going to do a scheduled early evening Q&A, live Q&A, and I'll have a microphone run into my mic pre, at which point I should have control over the audio and the visual. It's just very frustrating to me that it's mirrored from my perspective here, that I see everything backwards on the screen. Do you guys see Macintosh 240 normally, or is it backwards for you? Cool. I wish it wasn't backwards for me. It's frustrating. KT66s and Dumbles. I've only had 2 Dumbles come in, actual Dumbles, and I wasn't going to swap tubes in them. So I don't have an opinion over KT6s and Dumbles. If you have a Dumble amp and Howard used KT6s in it, use KT6s. If he used 6CA7s, if he used 34s, if he used 6L6s, use those. That's my opinion on KT66s. Reverse the polarity on your camera. I got to reverse the polarity of the neutron flow. All right. On that note, I'm gonna go watch some old Doctor Who and sign out. Thanks, guys.